At will, right? Well, let's say
All right. Welcome, traders. We are live from Black Cat Comics. Everything's late and nobody dies. Just waiting for Greg and our special guest to kind of wrap up a couple things, and then we'll get on with the discussion. Give us a chance to get a couple people into the live stream as well. Did want to take a moment and mention had a great weekend over the weekend, free comic book day. Greg was so kind enough to make sure I got a hold of my Star Trek free comic book day issue, so I'll be looking that over when I get home this afternoon. A lot of cool stuff. Oh, hello.
Lucky 45.
46. 40. I don't know. I'm the one that.
Lucky one.
40 something.
Yes, that's what I am. Yeah.
I was trying to figure out a way that we could still put a display book up there.
How about sandwiches?
Yeah, come on. All right. And as I promised, we've got a special guest with us today. This is Brian.
My name's Greg.
Brian is part of the Utah Comic Crew. Really only met you like 3 weeks ago. We ended up in a conversation about MCU movies, I think.
MCU movies.
DC. Oh, it was a Superman thing.
It was. That's right. We found an understanding.
A common.
And we
common
like
love.
each other anyway.
Marvin Wynn. How's it going, Marvin? Marvin Wynn's here. Marvin, of course, the creator of
Edge.
The Edge. Well, it's not Edge though. It's The Edge.
Oh,
Have you read
sorry.
The Edge?
I'm not.
Oh, it's pretty cool. It's really cool. It's kind of got an 80s image throwback feel. Marvin's done a fantastic job with that book. I actually have a couple trade paperbacks that he brought me, that he sent to me. I'll get one out to you.
Okay.
Make sure you get it. It's super cool. Super cool. Richie, what's up, Richie? How's it going? Another big DC fan, Richie.
Okay.
He loves his DC stuff.
Hi, Richie.
So we invited Brian here to talk with us. I don't know how much of a conversation this is going to turn into. And of course, those of you in the audience, go ahead and throw in your 2 cents worth. Damien, howdy. Damien's in all the way from
Hi, Damien.
Oregon. But we're going to talk about CGC today. And we do we do a fair amount of CGC bitching and
should have gotten more than water.
Finger waving at CGC.
That's what happened. Wave my
That's how that happened. Waving. Free comic book day. He was
yes,
waving fingers at CGC.
Poking kids in the head going, not everything's free.
But it's not just CGC.
No, it's not.
I think that we can lump them all together. CBCS is creating the same issue. And my issue, the concern I have with these grading companies, I think that we as collectors and as hobbyists give them way too much power, way too much control over our hobby.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so.
It's unfortunate how it's just grown to the point, to the state that it has as a collector, as a collector, as someone who is both interested in the story and the preservation.
Right.
Well, and I'm a retailer and I get upset about it. You know what I mean? It's like, man, people bring a $10 book in at CGC and said, "Will you give me $100 for this?" I'm like, "No,
right,
no, I will not." I said, "Why?" It's a $10 book. They said, "But it's CGC. Look, it says 9.2, and I paid $50 to get it slabbed." I said, "Yeah, it says 9.2, and I have the same book out there that I said is 9.2, and it's $10. It just doesn't have a case on it. It's just not in a cage."
Right. And I've often said that, I would trust your grading over anything I got from CGC. And that's not to say that they don't have qualified people there or that they don't know what they're doing. But I know you. I know how long you've been in this game.
I should start slapping stickers on all my books. GGC, Greg's Guaranteed Company. Greg's Guaranteed Comics. Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Yeah, I could do that.
And I think that's what creates our artificial bubbles.
That's a lot of what does. Yeah.
And it's a lot of, and no hate on the collectors that want that perfect book. I mean, you collect the way you collect. I don't go out. I don't chase the perfect book in my collection.
Yeah.
I don't have any slabs in my collection. It doesn't make sense for me the way that I treat my books. It doesn't make sense to do that.
I mean, the only thing that I think I would probably, if it came in slabbed, an Amazing Spider-Man one, that's probably the only thing I would keep slabbed. Because I again, that's the only thing I need. I've read it a million times. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I would have broken it out.
Right.
But, now I'm old and infirm and I break easily. And, man, I don't know, nobody get worried, but I don't know how much time I got left, I mean, geez, come on. You don't know what's up. And that's why I wanted something like that. I would want to leave to my daughter, because that book that's slabbed is always going to maintain that value. Something like that is going to.
And I think that speaks to more of the issue that we're coming across or coming onto with why do we give them so much power. I like to think of Pawn Stars in a lot of ways. I like to think of that whole process.
It's pronounced porn.
It is.
The show, the show, the TV show, not the other show.
Oh, okay.
I'm so sorry about that. I'm sorry.
So you think of just provenance. You think of having to have the certificate of authenticity, and you think about that process of the back and forth of negotiating, and what CGC has been so extremely well at doing is capturing all of that and printing it and making that part of their brand. So I think that's one main component. The other main component has to do with almost like stats to like any basketball game or any
like the back of a baseball card.
Exactly. That I think that's also proven very marketable as well, as far as prospect and investing and things like that. So I think that is sort of the front end of what we're dealing with that has blown up so big with CGC.
Well, there's I don't know, it's I again, my big point is because it's, and I guess the thing that I fully don't understand about CGC collectors, is I do to a point, but if there's a scratch on the back of the case, or if there's a little ding on it, you're not collecting the case. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you're collecting the book. You're not collecting the case. And if you're collecting the case, then buy the cases. Take the book out and keep the case, man. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Or the label or whatever.
Or the label,
that they're marketing.
Figure out a way to pop that in, put a picture of the comic in there, and put that up on your wall. And say, I do have this comic. This is my scan. This is the one I read is over here,
Right.
I mean, because essentially, in my mind, it becomes a piece of art at that point.
Right.
It's a framed painting, basically. But like we've said a million times, though, Eric, like we said a million times, a lot of dogs out there today. Like I've said a million times, I think, individual collectors are going to do it a different way. And, for me to say, oh, you shouldn't collect CGC, it's really arrogant for me to say.
Right.
I don't think that I should make somebody or tell somebody that they should collect or pressure somebody into collecting like I do.
Right.
You know what I mean? It doesn't. That doesn't make any sense.
No, that's a huge point. That's a huge point.
And it's no different than when we talk about yes, sometimes you and I have different points of view on certain things, right? But I'm not going to tell you to change that point of view because I don't want you to tell me to. You know what I mean?
Right.
You have your opinion. I have my opinion. This person that collects CGC stuff does that a certain way. the way I do it is a certain way. I mean, the way I collect, I'm sure there are people who are like, "Oh my god, what are you doing?"
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I do mine back to back, save space, and you just about lost your mind first time you saw me do that.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
like like that. There's a reason. Oh, I won't even get into that. We'll do a show on how to properly store your book because we need to teach Greg a couple things.
You store your books however you want to store your books. And that's how it goes. Welcome to my tutorial. This is my storing masterclass.
All right. Damien says it seems almost an accidental side effect of slabbing old books that some collectors fell in love with anything that is slabbed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think that's very true. I think now the way that I saw this whole thing progress, now keep in mind, I was out of comics for like 20 years. I collected heavily, joined the service, and was out for about 20 years and came back.
You joined the circus?
Yeah, I was.
Like trapeze?
I was the barker for the Yak Lady.
That's cool.
It was super cool.
Be careful because I've read Batman and those people don't last long.
They don't. But my kids will be heroes.
There you go. For a little while.
Now I'm completely lost my train of thought there.
You joined the service, you got back into comics.
So, what I see happening is pretty much the same thing that happened back with the crash in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
We went through a series where everything was ramping up and ramping up and ramping up. And once comics have a tendency to get to a point where other collectors, and there's nothing wrong with people that collect baseball cards or tennis shoes or whatever your Hummel figures, I don't care what it is. When you're chasing that and the adrenaline rush is finding that deal, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're chasing. They hear comic books are the next thing, so they move over to comic books.
Yeah,
and then we get an influx of people that don't understand. And it's just easier for them to be like, well, CGC says it's a 9.0.
Right.
CGC says it's a 9.8. Yeah. So I don't even have to look at it. I don't have to know anything. I just have to know what that will sell for.
Yeah, I have that authenticity. I have that stamp. I have that proof. Here it is.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
900, please.
And I'm okay with that. I've seen some, and I'm sure you have. I don't know what your experience is in the past, but I have seen at plenty of shows very unscrupulous dealers that will bump the grade on a book to sell it for more. And so for somebody just getting into the hobby, a Jace just getting into the hobby that doesn't know what to look for when you're running a spine on a book or corners or whatever, that it's just easier to default to whatever CGC says.
Yeah, that's true. And whether it actually is or not. And because there are questions with a lot of those,
so that's the back end. That's the back end of the CGC phenomenon that needs to be that needs to be understood. Needs to be just explained on so many levels, because any amount of time that you spend on let's just take your setting, a Comic-Con aisle, and you see some of the back and forth and the negotiating and whatnot. There are some potentially very shady circumstances that can easily take place.
Right.
Easily take place.
Oh yeah.
Well, and it's not only there's a lot of especially back in the 80s there were a lot of intentionally shady people.
Oh yeah.
But nowadays, I go to quite a few cons throughout the year, and not everybody is
above board.
Like they'll pick this up and they'll be like, "Hey, wow, that's a 9.8." Well, it's not. I want it to be a 9.8 because then I can sell it for more.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that too.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. I kind of have a problem, with it because, again, yes, they do. That's their jobs, okay? At CGC, at these grading services, that's their jobs. And yeah, you're right. We shouldn't just back on CGC.
Right.
But it's still, at the end of the day, this is my job, right? Your job is press and stuff, figuring out what that's looking like. You know what I mean? Your job's being cool.
And collecting.
Yeah, there you go. Cool and collect.
John Stout says he's going to slab his Turok #1. If you need any, I got a stack.
I've
like
got
this.
more. I just sold one today.
A Turok one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's going to be the next Darkhawk, I'm telling you.
Okay.
Like, so cool.
You're
like, okay.
Good.
I'm all right if
That's
that goes
cool.
up to $20.
Yeah. Yep. I will be sitting on a stack of cheese that you can cut with a Turok #1. Because
What's the alternatives? Like, what if we want to preserve a Turok #1 and make sure that we can
walk down the street?
Well,
we all have them.
this is the thing. I think that
throw a dead cat, you'll hit it.
I think a lot of people look at CGC and kind of use that as a default argument. I'm preserving my books. Mm-hmm. You're not. I mean, and that's coming from somebody with my background. I mean, I press and I clean and I archive books, and I know, and not just books. I've done, Time magazine from 1962, and I've done, important historical documents. Mm-hmm. So when you're talking about the preservation part of it, there are much more effective ways to preserve a book than to put it in a slab, especially. Not meaning to bag on CGC, they don't have the best slabs. They are,
that's true.
They're about 85% UV protective, so they're not going to protect your books from sun fade or lights. They're not going to help with that as much as you would like them to.
Right.
They don't breathe, and if you're getting them slabbed in Florida, especially if it's in the
oh my God,
springtime,
yeah,
you get all the mold in there, you get the moisture in there. They'll
get
mold
at least one crocodile.
At
least,
yeah. There's inherent dangers to having them slabbed for sure.
I found out CGC was in Florida. That was red flag #1. I'm gonna put that out there. That was back then. Though.
Seminars or classes to educate the comic book consumer.
There you go. Yeah, charge $100 an hour. Let's do it, man.
There you go, Janet.
Yeah. And see, here's live. Is I can just do this and eat my sandwich.
That's my sister that I don't talk to as much as I really should. I love you, Janet.
A suggestion about the comics to
that's
educate
Janet.
consumers?
Yeah, that's my sister.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I missed her last time I was in Illinois.
And the suggestion about your sister, talk to her more, man.
I need to.
Yeah.
I need to. Greg told me I need to talk to you more, so I'll talk to you more. No. But I love you.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So, and there's a lot that we could talk about as far as business practices at CGC and, things like that. But what I kind of wanted to get input on was why do we allow them? Why do we as collectors allow them the power over our hobby? Like CGC in particular has 80% control over our hobby right now. Yeah. They have more control than Marvel.
Okay. Yeah. The way I look at this is, and that's a really good question. Thanks for coming on my show. Really appreciate you coming out for it. So it's a great question, but I almost look at it like kind of the same way, if you watch, this is such a weird way to put this, but if you watch Anchorman 2 and they start talking about how they've made news entertainment, and it's like 24-hour news, and they're like, but we don't have news for 24 hours. They said, well, we'll make some. So they get in there and everybody starts watching. And then people start moving away from local news or, CBS evening news and stuff. No, I mean, why do you have that? There's news on 24 hours a day, right? And all of a sudden, everybody's like, why have we let the news stations just talk about, Kim Kardashian's butt and, whatever? Well, because we let them in. Mm-hmm. We let them in. We let them do that. And now that they're there, That's just what they do, and it's just what it is. And I think a lot of that is CGC. See, I tell you, I make it back around. You're gonna be like, "The hell's wrong with you?"
He's thinking about Kim Kardashian's butt.
Um,
I am.
oh God,
I mean,
I'm sorry. Oh my God,
I'm staying focused.
man, it's good Party America. They got balloons there. It's better. It's cheaper. So and I mean, I think that we've let them in to this industry and this hobby,
Mhm.
and now they're there. It's kind of like, what have we done with eBay? We've let them dictate certain prices because people are like, oh, it's hard to find. Well, I'll pay more. Okay, well, it's really hard to find, so I'll pay a lot more.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, people just look at eBay and come in and say, hey, man, this piece of cardboard is on there. And it's really great to eat a sandwich by. It's on there for $50. Will you give me $50 for this cardboard? And I'm like, no, I got a stack of cardboard over here. What's wrong with you?
Right.
I mean, I think we've let them in, and they're so pervasive now. I mean, I don't have slab stuff in my collection. I don't necessarily agree with the slabbing deal, but I don't have to. It doesn't matter, man. Again, it's not the way I collect. As a business, I have to
Right.
embrace it.
And I think that's a valid. I mean, not only not necessarily valid, but to piggyback
All right.
to piggyback off
As
of
a
that,
business.
to
No, yeah, right. First time.
I'm gonna alley oop that. There we go. I'm gonna follow through. I'm gonna follow through
Right.
with. So not only do we let them in, but because it has proven to be profitable,
Mhm.
because it has proven to be able to get those asking prices.
Yeah.
That is the last straw, the last point they needed to make to now come to the artists, the writers, and say,
Mhm.
hey, we're going to host this event. We're going to get so many
Yeah.
interested in slabbing with us to get the signature series
Right,
slab
right.
going. It's
Yeah,
we
and that
can't
was-
say no now. We can't turn it off now.
Yeah, and can't turn it off exactly. And I think that's a very self-serving thing, the signature deal. Through CGC, because they used to authenticate them.
Right.
Now they don't authenticate them, and if you want them
To authenticate.
authenticated, they have to be there. You have to pay more, or it has to be in an event that they put on.
They sanction.
Well, and there's no oversight to that
No,
either, which is problematic.
yeah,
I know. Okay, you get away from CGC, getting into other grading services, and there's really 4 players in the market right now. It's CGC, CBCS. Those are the 2 biggest that everybody knows. But EGS is starting to make a run, and they've got a great product, and it's a nice guy doing good work. And then others, PGX, which
aren't they? They're basically dead, right?
They're barely hanging on.
Yeah.
Like they're trying. But they've lost all integrity whatsoever. So they're never going to be a player in the space again, ever. But you start talking about the other ones, and like I am a certified witness for all 3 of them.
Mhm.
Like I can witness a signature, send in the paperwork, and it'll get a gold label with all 3 of them. And 2 of them, I just had to call up and like, I'm a pressing service. I'm at all these signings. What do I need to do this? And they're like, all right, you're now certified. Like that was their requirement.
That was the process.
Yeah, that was the whole process. So there's no consistency. There's no integrity whatsoever.
Okay, so now now I know you wouldn't do this, but this is my thing, and it's kind of like manipulating market value. Okay, if you put something on eBay and you charge $2,000 for a $200 book, you have your buddy buy it. He pays for it, you pay him back, you give him $50 for doing it. Then you can sell those $200 books for $2,000 all day long.
Yep.
Okay, so you have manipulated that market. All right, you can easily manipulate the certified signature series, and so what's, honestly, and what is to keep somebody who is a God, I hope this doesn't happen now because I said this, but what's to keep some guy from saying, yes, I'm certified. Oh yeah, man, you know what, I had Robert Kirkman here. I was at a signing there. So you get a whole bunch of Walking Dead Deluxe #1 reprints,
Right.
Okay, and you practice his signature, and you sit there and you sign Robert Kirkman, and you've bought these books, and you can get a diamond account like that. So you bought these books for $2-3, send them in, get them slabbed, and you sell them for $200 a piece.
Yeah.
Like what's to stop that?
There's nothing in place.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guarantee you,
Oversight.
and like Doug, Phil, all these guys that we know here, and they don't go on every day and check to see what's signed, because they do so many signings at so many conventions and so many shows and so many shops, and they're not going to go on there and check and say, wait a minute, where was I August 5th? I can't remember. I don't know. Maybe it's me. You know what I mean?
Right. And it shouldn't be their job to
do
so.
But they can't check on that.
There's no way to that. There's no way to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, Phil CB was in here on Free Comic Day, picking some stuff up, bringing his kids in.
Right.
He just signed a book for somebody that was standing in line. People, they sign this stuff all the time.
So there's a little bit of drama going on in chat at the moment. I need to calm that down. Bueller, Howard Chaykin is nasty. I think that's a little.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
John is agreeing. A horrible way to talk about your mom's future husband.
Hey, Travis.
So those of you that don't know, Howard Chaykin.
Oh my God,
fantastic creator.
Some people know him better than others.
Some people know him better than some people's moms know him even better.
That was a good point, so I can finish this sandwich.
Greg just hit that point. Yep. Get a con man to push out CGC certified books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I don't know what the solution is there either, because there's a lot of Torpedo Comics is a great example. Black Cat Comics is a great example. How often do you have Doug Wagner?
Where are you going? Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. How often do you have Doug Wagner sitting here signing everything that comes his way?
Mm-hmm.
And Doug's a great guy. Doug will sign anything for free. So, like, if I see a Doug Wagner signature on a book on your wall, I'm not even going to question it.
Right.
So why would I don't know? It's just I think that's a slippery slope.
It really is, and I mean, I guess the reason I think of things like this is, number one, from a business sense, like, how do I know that's real?
Right.
Have to.
And then that tells me that some of the CGC stuff couldn't be real, theoretically.
Yeah.
Theoretically. Okay. And I mean, again, I guess the reason I do that was I was not a upstanding citizen when I was younger. I got a criminal mind, man. And that's why I probably keep from getting ripped off as much as I do.
Right.
Because I got a devious criminal mind, man. And I'm like, well, if I was going to do this, what would I do? Yeah, I'd probably do it like that. Nah, I don't think I can buy that from you.
Well, and if you look back historically, your two biggest signatures in comic books, Stan Lee and
Rob
Jack
Liefeld.
Kirby. I need a Rob Liefeld signature. So Stan Lee and Kirby, both of which, like, who was it? Torpedo Comics. Somebody had an actual stamp made, a Stan Lee signature.
Right.
Stan Lee approved of it, so they could stamp his signature.
Yeah. He signed that. He signed it. They made a stamp. I don't think it was Torpedo, but he signed it.
Was somebody in Vegas. It was somebody in Vegas.
Gee. That's a shock. So, yeah, if I remember right, what happened is he signed that. He signed his name.
Right.
And then he said, yeah, that's my signature. It's boom, like that. 2 thumbs up. Boom. I'm not trying to finger gun you, but ooh, and then and then they just made the stamp, and he's like, "Yep, I signed that," because he technically, I guess, signed it. And then,
Well, and Kirby, his wife and secretary signed half the stuff out there that has his name on it.
Right. Really.
So, and a bunch of which has been certified.
next you're gonna tell me that like famous people actually don't run their social media stuff.
Well, Jack Kirby doesn't.
Oh crap!
Yeah, that Jack Kirby that you were slid into your DMs last night. That's not really him.
Are you serious? I gave him $10,000 to do a signing.
Which, kind of on a side note, Neil Adams is constantly on Instagram.
Yeah.
Like going live on Instagram.
Yeah, I think it's Maryland.
It is. Yeah. They're trying to sell off.
Yeah.
Like years and years of super cool stuff that I can't afford.
Yeah.
But it is cool
so
stuff. Cool. It is cool
Yes,
stuff.
it is. That's it. That's a Neil Adams original on me, no?
Does it ever seem like it won't be problematic? Does it ever seem? Is there a light at the end of the tunnel as far as giving CGC so much?
I think there is. I think we're seeing. This came up recently with the Daredevil one. When you started shopping a Daredevil one, CGC 6.0. It's got problems. Not the fact that it's a 6.0. To me, the real problematic part about that book is it's pressable.
Mm-hmm.
It needs some cleaning,
mm-hmm.
and nobody can do it but CGC because it's a signature series book.
Uh-huh.
Nobody's allowed to touch it but CGC,
And
or it's getting a green label.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is this a policy? If a book has already been graded, it already has been slabbed, and you send it in and you want a signature series for it to get reslabbed, and it will have to go through their grading process.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
That is okay.
But okay, here's the other thing. You can play any system. Then what if you say, "Oh my God, it dropped and broke"?
Yeah.
I was going to send it in, and it got returned in the mail because somebody broke the package. Like they ran over it or something. You know what I mean? You take it out, you press it, you shove it back in there, and go, "God, I was going to send it in for regrading because I think it's a lot better. I think there was a mistake on that." Then will they regrade it with the signature?
Well, they would have to.
I'm such a devious bastard.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? There's a way to game all of it. That's my point.
Right.
Have we calmed down about Hard Chicken yet?
Are
we good? Travis, are we good, man?
Yeah.
All right.
Has slabbing pushed the prices of unslabbed books? I think it has.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens is
definitely.
the people that are buying those high slabs,
you're going to need inventory. You're going to need more.
Yeah.
You got to feed the machine somehow, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as soon as a 9.8 Amazing Spider-Man 9 sells for whatever that's selling for, $280 or whatever it was, as soon as that book sells, and that even though it's only been out less than a month, people are going to run on that book.
Spider-Man 9. The Spider-Boy thing.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah. And I guarantee it, maybe not this next one, but maybe the next. No, it's too soon for that. So now the next Overstreet, but the Overstreet after that, you're going to see Spider-Man Volume 4, however the hell they're going to try and put it. It's going to be number 1, $5, 2 through. No, what? 2 through. What is that? What was one? Is it 9?
I think it's 9.
Yeah, 2 through 8, $4. 9, $26. 10 and up, $4. I mean, it's gonna say that.
Yeah.
And that's my concern is, it's how much is it going to affect, and how much is it affecting it? Because I mean, and there's stuff in this price guide that I'm just like, no, it should not. It should not. Man.
Well, and I think
it is.
I think that's a completely different animal that we could go on forever.
But the slabbing and the spec is pushing that.
I think
Yes.
I don't see how it couldn't be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think just today, I got a friend send me an email, forwarded me an email of an auction. And not, I don't think it was CGC, but we're talking about other graded items and stuff like that. But it was, could you not, an Oreo cookie box from yesteryear, graded.
Yeah. Oh,
That's basically where where the ridiculousness is taking us.
I do a lot of work in concert posters. Concert poster grading is getting to be huge.
Should I grade all my old signed basketball shoes from the Jazz and sell them?
Mm-hmm.
I could probably.
Well, depends on who you have.
But this is the
Karl
market.
Karl Malone basketball shoe. Yeah, you're
Karl
thousands of dollars.
Karl Malone, Bobby Hansen, John Stockton,
Stockton
Wayne
would
Cooper,
be
all
huge.
that stuff.
Cooper would be huge.
Yeah. Yeah, I got all of those because they used to give them to me.
Yeah.
So that's a profit.
So I think this is.
So tell me more about the sneaker thing.
Yeah, there's profit.
Yeah.
So I think this is an interesting one. This is Invincible #1, local comic shop day.
Foil.
So, tell me why this book isn't worth, what's Invincible 1 worth?
Like 1,000.
Why isn't this worth a couple hundred?
No idea.
There's a much shorter print run on this book.
Way less than that. Yeah. Way less on that.
I mean, it would be the right time, right? Because there was that Amazon series. So
yeah.
We're dealing with
yeah,
a circulating market.
So if you look in our buy it now. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that should be worth a lot more, man. Way more. I mean, not more than the first print, but more than
what it's.
I mean, yeah, it's like local comic shop day when it's like $10 or something. You know what I mean? And if it's $20, something like that.
Another thing that I find interesting, Richie.
Hi, Richie,
who is local here. I have a book of his that, and this is a completely different issue with CGC. I have a book of his that was sent into CGC. Man, it has to have been over 2 years ago. They messed up, and they kept splitting lots and sending them different places.
I remember this.
And his book ended up going to CCS to get pressed. Coming from me, so I pressed the book, sent it in. They sent it to CCS to get pressed, which added another year or something, and before sending it back to me. And like it's like there's no oversight over there at all.
Yeah,
I've got some Golden Age books that are going on 2 years, and after 6 months, it falls off of your what you can look.
Oh up. yeah, and so
who's to say
where is it?
Yeah.
Like it's not like, I mean, you would think with the amount of focus on the collector market, it would almost be like, remember, you order pizza from Domino's online, it's like, see, and it's like the meter kind of,
yeah.
You would think that there would be some sort of innovation, focused on that to let your process, to let your customers know the process is happening.
Yeah, and that's a really good. You get a little Noid on there on CGC. It's like, avoid the Noid. Things
Okay,
maybe
so
2 years.
The guys are talking. Oh, what got me to that, Rich, is your book is sitting on my desk. So the book's here.
So it has a happy ending.
And well, it's not the best of grades, but
so it has an ending.
It has an ending. I'm really upset about
that's happier than most.
So
well, there you go. Right?
He mentions video games. I don't know if you've seen the video.
Oh my God, yes.
CGC
and movies.
They
going
just
on.
Announced, what was that? Like maybe that was like a year or maybe a year and a half ago that they're going to.
And then Curtis brings up that they started encapsulating VHS tape,
VHS and beta,
and record albums. I've been pressing a lot of album jackets lately.
Oh my God.
So the frustrating part about that, and I can't remember who said this to me, but they were ranting, they were pissed. Might have actually, no, it wasn't you.
You just think ranting and pissed, and you look at me, huh?
It's got to be Greg. But they're now grading Pokemon cards and video games and VHS tapes and concert posters and tennis shoes and everything you can possibly think of. They can't even get comic books right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, fix the one thing that you have before moving
And
on.
that's how you know we're on the fickle foundation.
And see, okay, this is it's gonna be like a version of Idiocracy, man. It's gonna be so hard to find something ungraded. Anything. That's like, why are you late to work? I'm sorry, I got my car slabbed and I can't drive it anymore. It's vintage and it's pretty, you know? Hi. Can I talk to your mom? No. She hasn't been able to breathe since we got her back from CGC. Sorry. It's just, my God. Where are we going to stop with it? I'm sorry. I'm yelling. I'm sorry about that, people on YouTube and everything, man. Oh, my God.
And I do think that nostalgia is part of it. I mean, I want my books preserved the best way possible.
Sure,
I do.
Sure.
I collect mid and low grade books, and like, my collection is never going to be that mile high value collection, but they mean something to me, so I want them preserved as best as I can possibly get them. So I press them, I clean them, I use comic extenders, I do my lights, everything you're supposed to do. So the nostalgia part is really important, but I don't think that that's the kind of death kiss from CGC. I think what's really hurting the hobby is we've got new people coming into the hobby that think that that's the only way they can collect.
Yeah,
like
that's all they know. That's all they know.
That and it sends the wrong message,
right?
Because they're books. You're supposed to read your books
first and foremost.
I don't know how many people send me books and they're like, I've never read a comic book. Here, let's get it slabbed.
Yeah,
I get that all the time.
Well, and I think a lot of that though is, like you said, it seems weird to delineate it like this, but now we're talking about, the height of the pandemic was what, 3 years ago, right?
Right.
It's been 3 years.
Yeah.
And so you almost have like pre-pandemic and post-pandemic people. Right. You know what I mean? And it's like, people know things from 2019 and before,
right, and
they know things from after 2019. And it's that certain age, that 3-year gap there. Like, I mean, example, guy bought a quarter book today and pulled out his credit card.
Wow.
You know why? Because they don't know what money is.
Yeah.
They don't know what money is, and it's credit card, it's direct deposit, it is automatic bill pay, it is, paperless statements, it is nobody touches money anymore. And which is why, I have people come in here and they're like, do you take cash? And I'm like, yeah, there's absolutely no fee to deposit that. What would you like me to do for your cash? I'm pretty open to anything right now. Yeah, so you've got collectors before, they're like, yeah, I'm going to read these comics, And then you got collectors during there that couldn't go anywhere and get them. So they had to get them online, and they were paying a lot of money because you couldn't go anywhere. And then people were like, well, what if I slab them? I can make more. And then I think it just perpetuates this thing. There's a pre and post COVID life, I think.
No doubt.
Speaking to our audience, everybody's like, yes. And yeah, that's the problem. People think slabbing is the only real way. That's crazy. Digital, even, great way to read books. I do a lot of digital these days.
It's funny you talk about Idiocracy. I wonder if we're ever going to get to the point.
Oh, we're halfway there.
Well, no. That's not the question. I mean specifically in comic collecting, where we'll have to question if anybody first is reading, because nobody will know what happened. So like we all know, what who shows up at the end of 180, Hulk 180.
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
So what if we get to a point where reading doesn't happen, so nobody can tell you why it's even slabbed to begin with?
Well, and that's a great example, because
they're all going to have their microphone on on their phone, and then Wikipedia will automatically bring it up, man.
Well,
they don't care.
There's so many people.
Seriously, at the end of Wolverine 180, Wolverine cameo on last page was there.
But I mean, that's the great point to, because I'm going to alley-oop what you just said. So
piggy bank that baby.
So many, I'm going to piggy bank that bitch.
That's a thing.
All these years,
you might want an Urban Dictionary.
We just created a new one.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so I'm piggy banking. So all the years leading pre-CGC, think pre-CGC. What was the first appearance of Wolverine? Hulk 180.
Mm-hmm.
When did 181 become the valuable book and become the first appearance of Wolverine? When CGC put it on their freaking label.
Yeah. Remember, I came in crazy one evening.
He was all nuts.
You're gonna have to tell me which evening.
This was I was trying to put together all the Venom's appearances. Like,
oh God, yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, I have the first appearance of Eddie Brock. I have the first appearance of Eddie Brock. And you're like, no,
you don't.
And we went into this long, rabbit hole triad of just, well, at one point, it could have been this because somebody pushes.
That was that web of Spider-Man. Yeah.
Okay.
And when he gets pushed into the subway.
Okay.
And they were initially planning that to be Venom.
Right.
But it wasn't. He wasn't there, because he got pushed in there, his spider sense didn't go off. So, that's the telltale Venom, right?
Right.
He doesn't set off the spider sense because, Peter Parker has been inside him. And he knows him. So what? And he knows him really well, right? So he doesn't set off his spider sense, right? But, part of the problem with that is, goddamn Donny Cates, man. When he's like, no, actually, the first appearance of this was when I wrote Thor.
Yeah.
And the ghost of Thor's mom was like, hey, I got a dog. And then they showed the dog, and the dog had a black spot. And then that black spot was on the other side next time because it was Null. It's like, no, it wasn't.
Yeah. The Cates effect.
Yeah, the Cates effect. The Cates. Oh my God, there's so many Cates effects now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
How did that guy change comics so much?
He did some cool stuff.
Of course he did. Yeah.
Blasted onto the scene.
Well, because everybody got the retconning was a cool idea. The first one. Sure.
I mean, I also think I like to think that when you're given a blank check, creatively,
absolutely.
You
and literally maybe.
I'm not. You would know more. I'm just saying. When you're kind of allowed to, shoot for the stars, guess what can happen?
Right.
You can maybe come up with some really fun stuff.
And he's come up with some great storylines. Like he can retcon anything.
Well, it's like I said, and if you shoot for the stars, sometimes you end up mooning someone. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
I'm getting really upset and excited about this episode, aren't I? Sorry. I'm sorry.
But so I think, and this is going to be my tangent. This is what I see happening with CGC. They were really a nothing burger, like getting books slabbed when they still had the cheap plastic slabs.
Yeah.
The reason for that was if you needed to file a police report, needed to know a grade for your book, or you wanted to sell online and you wanted a legit grade so that the other person, when they got the other end, could say, okay, it's a 9.8. Now I'm going to open it and put it in my collection.
Right. Yeah.
That was the original intent behind it. Then they started slabbing, baseball cards. Baseball cards it's okay to put your baseball card inside a hard plastic container
because there's nothing to
only
read.
Two sides.
There's two sides.
You get everything that you're going to get outside the slab in the slab, so it doesn't matter.
I mean, and if you want to go that way, same with the shoe. You're not going to say. I mean, you can't wear the damn thing, which is what I thought they were for. But I mean,
video games. I got issue there because you can't play it.
Yeah.
At that point,
It's a game.
The interesting thing about that, we're now at the point where games are able to change through online patches, updates.
right?
So now there's a case being made for, well, if you have the original release, you have line of code that kind of sits. It's self-contained as it was before it would have been updated and what have you. But I mean it still speaks to your point,
Right?
But I mean, you can still read comics digitally.
Yeah, and you can read comics digitally, but once you put a book, there's to me something to be said for being able to hold your book. I can take any book in my collection out. I can take my Defenders one out, my prized possession out, and hold it in my hand and turn the pages and smell the paper, and I can do that, but I can't do that if it's slabbed.
Yeah.
But what happens is a lot of those sports card people came over to comic books because they saw the money.
Yeah.
And they're like, slab worked over here with our sports cards, so it's got to work with comic books.
Yeah. That's a chintzy ass looking book. How much you pay for that?
I got it for free.
Oh, good for you.
I know a guy.
Good.
I know a guy. That's really cool. It's got like
Pokemon games from 1998.
Do you think the answer to that could be, the whole digital code inside your book, access to the digital copy versus, you have your physical, you also have access to the digital that they were doing for a while.
Right.
Yeah, Marvel's still doing it.
Marvel still does it. Okay.
But sometimes they forget to put the codes in, or a sticker or anything.
Yeah.
There's like
a blank.
Yeah, there's just a blank spot. There's not even like a thing.
I see that
there.
a lot.
It's like, hey, turn this in for your free book, and that's why people. It's costing me money because I have to print out damn receipts all the time, and because people that get their digital stuff will get a receipt for that day of buying the book, and then they can show Marvel that, and they'll send them a code.
Okay.
And so if anybody it does do digital and you don't have that, get a receipt. Marvel will do that apparently. But I mean, that's the thing. You do have a backup copy, but I got walking around with a laptop or an iPad like this. That's not a book. God, this is like the most valuable prop I've ever had in this thing. This is great.
Yeah. But yeah, I do see that, getting back to the Daredevil one thing, when we were talking about the value of that book, it is worth, in a 6.0, it's worth as much, if not more, raw than it is slabbed. I mean, in this case, a little bit different. You've got
in this case, it's different.
Series. Yeah. But as just a blue label 6.0 Daredevil #1, there's in effect really no difference in value. You might even be able to get a little bit more for a raw book. The person thinking, I could maybe turn that into a 7.5.
I could press it up, man.
Yeah, just that anticipation of a higher grade. So, yeah, even when it comes to the sales of raw books, like the influence that CGC and all the grading companies have over the hobby is just insane.
Well, and we're running over, of course, because that's what we do. But one thing I just want to touch on really quick, something that you and I were talking about that Daredevil book, where it's like, oh my God, this is signed by Stan Lee. Now, it is, and we talked about this. An X-Men #1 from the '90s. Okay, that's maybe what. Signature Series 9.2 signed by Stan Lee, what, $200 maybe?
Right.
You know what I mean? Something that came out in the last 10 years, signed by Stan Lee, is going to be a $500, $600, $700, $800 book because they were charging so much for it. I mean, even getting a Stan Lee signature book through Diamond, it had a price tag of about $600, man. But the situation with that is, I think, and we're alike in our thought with this, I think, that a Daredevil one, an Uncanny X-Men one, an Avengers #1, that is going to be hugely more important. And I think that signature boosts those books significantly. Now, if you have a Daredevil 64 that's signed by Stan Lee, okay, so what? A couple $100 on there, right? you know.
Right.
But I think it's a historical. It's like you're doing a podcast with an old Yugo. Yeah. So I think the historical significance of the book, I think, has a big effect on the value of that signature.
Oh, I think so for sure.
Yeah.
Running the numbers, I ran all the numbers on that book. Looking at the census, there were 532 signature series Daredevil number ones. Now, I'm sure, knowing as how prolific Stanley's signature is, that 80 to 90% of them are Stanley's.
Mm-hmm.
So if you say there's 500 books out there, Daredevil number ones with Stanley's signature, well, 10 years from now, there's not going to be 501.
Right.
That's never going to happen again.
Yeah.
On such an important book.
Because even if it is signed, it's not going to get the yellow label.
Right.
Because it wasn't signed in front of him.
Right. And nobody will authenticate a Stanley signature anymore.
Yeah.
CBCS will not authenticate.
Because there's so many, and it's
like we send in.
You can do it. You can do a Stanley signature with your eyes closed. Anymore.
I send in something.
I think what there was articles like, hey, please stop having Stan Lee sign stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we send in a Stanley signature, and I got the certificate of authenticity. I can't remember what. Oh, it's Spider-Man number one. It was a silver Spider-Man number one, McFarlane Spider-Man. And it was Stanley signature, and they refused to certify it, and they sent it back, and their explanation was there's just so many of them out there, we're no longer authenticating Stanley signatures.
I got to rethink my price on this. No, that's that I think that's just what it is.
Yeah.
So
all right. So yeah, we've gone way over, which means we're going to start losing people.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody but Damien. It'll be just us and Damien by the end of this.
There you go.
Because he's such a hardcore supporter.
Travis just went on to talk just talk shit about our chicken and leave.
Yeah. Wait, come on, talking about chicken. So it was really nice having you, Brian.
Thanks for being on.
I'm gonna ask Brian to come back at some point and talk about DC Heroes.
Let's do it.
Just to talk about DC Heroes, because we got a shared love there for sure. Make sure
Could be an interesting one with me. Huh?
Make sure you tune in on Wednesdays. We come to you live from Black Cat Comics. We're going to run down the wall, let you know all the books that came out, new books.
Next week should be a lot easier because it's not after Free Comic Day. I'll have them all up on time.
We'll have them up on time. And then every Thursday, we talk about something comic book related normally. And we're hoping to kind of expand that out. We do have a couple big announcements coming up for some stuff that's going to be happening in Utah pretty soon. Big news that's coming up. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and ring the bell to let you know whenever we've got something new dropping. All right, we'll see you later, traders.
Oh, the big news is definitely not Jack Kirby coming. That was a fake email.
Yeah.